Dear Gemini friend, so this video is going to be about Saturn in the 4th house. I do have videos in the description that go more in depth into Saturn, what it represents in our chart, and also in the description you'll find where you can get a reading from me. I offer natal chart and synastry readings. But looking at Saturn, so Saturn's always going to be in a sign too, and the sign's going to be important, but I find the house to be a lot more personally helpful because the house where you have Saturn, that's going to be an area of difficulty in your life, especially for the first 30 years up until Saturn returns to where it was originally when you were born. But I go more over that in the other videos. In this one, I really want to focus on this feeling of what Saturn gives us, this restriction, limitations, the boundaries that it creates in order to teach us a lesson. But it's a hard lesson. We have to learn this the hard way. And when you have Saturn in the 4th house, this can be a deeply painful one because this goes to our roots and gives us an uncomfortable foundation. If I could sum up Saturn in the 4th house in a little phrase, it's restriction within our emotional foundations. The 4th house deals with so many things. It's our relationship with family, with home, with comfort, safety, nurturing, the way that we take care of things, the way we process our emotions, how emotions were modeled to us, everything that really has to do with our relationship with just emotions and feelings in general, and how much we expect our emotional needs to be met. So the way that you were raised and whatever relationship you had with your parents, especially the more maternal parent or any authority figures that were supposed to be taking care of you, Saturn is a harsh energy. It is strict, it's disciplined and controlled, and that's really no way to be giving or receiving nurture. It's not a soft planet, and the 4th house is intended to be soft. So having Saturn here can absolutely represent a strict, difficult upbringing or not receiving anywhere near as much emotional nurture as you needed. Because the 4th house, our childhood, our roots, how we grew up, models emotions to us, how we are able to express them, what we are feeling like we're allowed to ask for. And this also, with Saturn in the 4th, has the potential of having Saturn conjunct your IC, which is really still everything that I'm going over here, just very powerfully attached to your foundation. So I'm gonna go over struggles first, and then the growth process, and then what mastery looks like. And starting with struggles, if you have Saturn in your 4th house, this can really indicate a lot of difficulty when it comes to maybe the very idea of family or of nurture. You could have felt like you had to grow up really fast. Maybe you were put in a role of really great responsibility early on, or you had a very strict upbringing. This is associating strictness and discipline with home, with safety, where we feel safe, where we feel like we can come home to and ideally rest. This could feel like when you came home, there was no rest, there was no softness. Or you could have been put in a caretaker role, maybe taking care of younger siblings, or kind of forced to be the responsible one. Because Capricorn is the sign associated with Saturn, and Capricorn rules like the skeletal system, the joints, the backbone. You could feel like you are really integral to your family system, like upholding everything, feeling that weight of responsibility on you. Like you can't be soft, you can't break down, you have to stay strong. So what this can do is it can cause or having a really hard time being emotionally vulnerable, and especially asking for help, asking for care when you need it, or even just expressing what is wrong. It could feel off limits, it could feel like it's not worth it, or like it's just not expected of you, so why would you bother? You're strong, you're capable, but nobody should have to always constantly be strong and capable. Home is for rest, it is for taking care of ourselves. So you could find that forms of self-care might be really hard to even figure out or comprehend. The idea of relaxation could be difficult. Of course, a lot of this is going to depend on your individual energetic makeup, what signs you have, what planets you have, wherever. But having Saturn at your foundation like this, no matter what sort of person you are, there is a heaviness there. And potentially a feeling like you can't ever just let go and allow yourself to be taken care of. But this could also be something that you really, really desire, whether you recognize it or not. The idea of being taken care of, having somebody take those responsibilities from you and just let you rest. But you could find yourself frequently in the role of the caretaker rather than the one being taken care of. And of course, while this can be associated with strict, authoritative parents, this can also be isolation associated with your early home life. You could have been alone a lot, or kind of made to fend for yourself and take care of yourself, parent yourself. That's one of the things that is a really prominent part of this placement. Saturn always requires patience and discipline from us. But in an area that really isn't meant to be disciplined, the way that we handle this, it's kind of different. It's actually more about setting boundaries with other people, setting boundaries against those who might be draining your emotional energy or those who are needing too much from you, and using that sense of discipline as being more disciplined about self-care, about actually making yourself do the things that feel good, even if you're so used to things not feeling good. Like, this is associating comfort with restriction, and when you have that mindset or just that natural way of being, to feel comfortable and relaxed can just feel wrong. It just feels like you're not being productive or you're not doing enough. Like, there's always something you need to be taking care of. And I think the most difficult thing that comes with this is that the fourth house represents sort of the feeling of being at home that we take with us. And if you don't feel at home when you are at home, then you might never feel like you're at home anywhere, comfortable within yourself, safe in who you are. And when you're lacking that feeling of safety in who you are, then, everything feels dangerous. It feels like you need to be protecting yourself, defending yourself at all times, and you can never let your guard down. This can even be a complete denial of your needs. Even seeing that as a good thing or like a righteous thing where you don't need things the same way that other people do. But it's really important to recognize what you do need, because everybody has needs. Everybody has a softer part of them that wants to be nurtured. So while you might have to be that for yourself, it is important that you are that for yourself. And people will come. Other people who can take care of you will come into your life. But it does kind of take being that for yourself first, which seems cruel because you might have had to be your own parent. But Saturn's lessons are very much for a purpose. And when I get to mastery, I'll explain more what this can actually mean long term and why it can be a really powerful placement when healed. But another struggle that comes with this is like forming emotional bonds, trusting people and getting vulnerable with them, sharing your emotions, sharing what's wrong. You could feel like you can listen to other people endlessly, you can be a shoulder to cry on for them, but you never have anybody that's there for you. This can even come with a really deep fear of abandonment or of instability, feeling like you're not safe. But one of the best ways to create safety is to create deep emotional bonds with people that you trust, to find people who do resonate with you on an emotional level and who are going to care. But it does take sharing things first, and it takes some vulnerability, because the fourth house, it's associated with Cancer. This is the sign of the mother, of nurture, the moon. And when it comes to Cancer as the crab, it's that tough outer shell, soft insides. And when Cancer energy is having a hard time, of course, it's going to really focus on those defenses, on the shell and the claws. So really pay close attention to where you might be defensive or protective of yourself, and look for little ways to let your guard down. I know that this can come with so many circumstances that prevent you from wanting to do that, but there are always good people, and there are people who will resonate with you and will want to take care of you. So it just takes sharing, recognizing that, and also telling yourself that you're worth it, that you do deserve that care, because this is a really painful feeling. Everybody, before they grow up, when they are a baby, babies all expect to be taken care of. Just think of how innocent you were as a baby. You never did anything wrong. Saturn in the fourth feels like a very external circumstances driven one, where you could have been made to feel powerless or like you really had no say in this. but it is something that you can take back and really create your own narrative here. So getting into the growth process, what I mean by create your own narrative, I'm thinking of like found family or redefining what family is to you. If your relationship with your biological family or the family that you grew up in is not good, if they don't feel like they match with your idea of what you need, what you needed, and what you want for the future, you don't have to be stuck with them. You don't have to restrict yourself, even if Saturn makes it feel like these things are really tied together or like there's no way out. You do deserve to develop boundaries and separate yourself from circumstances that aren't good for you, because this can indicate having family that is really draining, just taking from you, depleting you of your energy and of everything that you should be giving yourself and allowing yourself to feel. So if you do find that you have a really stuck relationship with your family and you feel like you aren't allowed to separate, there's too much guilt or shame there, really recognize where that guilt and shame is coming from. Are they projecting it on you? Are they giving it to you? Is that something that you want? But creating boundaries and distance doesn't have to mean dropping somebody altogether, going no contact with them. This is about defining things on your own terms and what works for you. But it does take the discipline of Saturn to really uphold those boundaries. And it takes emotional awareness to really be aware of where you want to draw those lines in the first place. But it's completely up to you. Wherever we have Saturn, we are an authority in this matter. So your deep and extremely mature understanding of family dynamics that you developed from a very young age, most likely, this makes you an authority on these matters. And even if everyone disagrees with you, you can still write your own contracts, draw your own terms. It's up to you. It's up to what feels right, not what seems right or what sounds like the right thing or what is the most traditional role. That's not what this is about. This is creating structure, your own family structure. And the main thing that you want to work on here is creating home within yourself, creating safety and comfortability within yourself, which looks different for every person. Look to your moon sign and the house that your moon is in. Really try to find a way to embody the best parts of that, because our moon does show us the sort of ideal way that we process our feelings. And not everybody processes in the most natural, like Cancer moon way. And even in the most difficult moon signs, they do have a positive expression, a way to really handle it in a healthy way. So recognizing your relationship with your emotions, with emotional processing, emotional release, expression, and really recognizing what control you have over things. Because like I said before, this can feel like external circumstances are incredibly oppressive. So recognize where you have power and take that power back. Don't allow other things to dictate your comfort, something so personal. And another thing that your moon sign is going to represent is what comfort is for you, how you can most ideally comfort yourself and create a home for yourself. So using that as a guideline can be really helpful, and just finding your own unique way, because family and home, I mean, that's so different for every individual person. You don't have to follow any rules. You just have to create your own. And another huge part of this growth process can be healing family wounds, whether this is things that are passed down to us from our parents, which they can get it from their parents, and it just keeps going. Parents pass on their unresolved trauma to their children. It's not fair, but it becomes something that we have to deal with in our own way, in whatever way that we integrated it into ourselves, whether that's conscious or not, and it's almost always unconscious. But I always advocate for going back in your memories, really picking which memories stand out the most, especially the unpleasant, difficult, painful ones that you don't necessarily want to remember. When we have recurring memories that just pop up, or things that we think about every once in a while and kind of push it away because it's painful, those are really the parts of us that need to be looked at the most, because we can always go back to that time in our minds and parent ourselves or treat ourselves the way that we would have wanted to be treated. We can even take the memory and completely rewrite the scene in a more ideal way, which I know sounds weird. It sounds like a really uncomfortable thing to rewrite the past, but it's not like you're lying to yourself, because you know the truth. You know what actually happened, but just by really visualizing and being in that scene and experiencing it in a positive way, what that does is it detaches you from that previous pain that you had. And sometimes we can have such strong attachments to our pain and to our difficult circumstances because we feel like they formed us as a person, and they did, but we don't have to identify with them. We don't have to identify with being a victim back then. We don't have to identify with being somebody who was hurt in that way. It doesn't mean it didn't happen, and it doesn't mean that it's something you need to reject entirely. It's just that to overcome it, to acknowledge it, and then rewrite it, or even just look back and see, what did we want to have happen in that moment? What would that have looked like? Sometimes that can be enough. And also, looking back at things with our adult mindset, we can recognize like the ways that the people who hurt us were also struggling, what their issues were. You don't have to forgive them, you don't have to do anything like that, but sometimes making more sense of it in that way can be helpful. But this is about finding a way that works for you, because our bodies are our home. This is our home, and our heart and our mental landscape, our mind, all of that. We want to create an ideal home for ourselves, to create comfort at all times, to where we can feel like even on the inside that we can ask when we need something. Not necessarily to another person, just allowing ourselves to feel like, okay, I do need this. I will admit that I need this, or I want this, or this would make me feel better, because this placement can come with a lot of denial and just rejection of those needs, whether that's from recognizing that maybe you were punished for asking for certain things, for crying, for displaying certain emotions. You can associate shame or rejection with these past experiences, even things before you remember. Because so much of being a child is receiving things, receiving subconscious signals, and processing emotions and situations that we don't really understand. But the more we can go in and open up, whether we're opening up to ourselves or to trusted people, this heals this. This helps so much. Even just the awareness of what we need, or that we do need sometimes. Allowing ourselves to be taken care of in the way that we might have wanted when we were a child, just that can actually open us up to attracting these circumstances into our lives, attracting these people who are going to align with this new version of us, the more healed, softer, more vulnerable version of us. And that's not to say that you have to be a totally soft, vulnerable person. A lot of the discipline in this way comes through in boundaries and awareness of when to do what, when to ask for what. But the difficult thing tends to be more in allowing rather than holding back. You're probably pretty good at holding back. So even just setting up little things you can do for yourself, like if there's something that always makes you feel better, do it more often. Make it more accessible. If like journaling helps you to connect to your emotions more, do that. There are all sorts of things that you can talk to too. You don't necessarily have to talk to a real person. Sometimes just venting, whether anyone else hears it or not, can be helpful. And patience. Patience is always just completely critical when it comes to Saturn's placements. These things take time. They take time. You have to be patient with yourself and not expect yourself to be fully healed completely, or for people to respect your boundaries immediately. It takes time and discipline to keep these things going and to integrate them into who you are, but you deserve it. You deserve that comfort, because what all of this is going into is building emotional foundations for yourself, building lasting, stable foundations that actually work for you. And we build these foundations through our habits, through connecting with people, through connecting with our emotions, through doing things that make us feel taken care of, making our home somewhere more comfortable, allowing ourselves to rest, to rejuvenate our own emotional energy before we start giving to people again. I know there is always a lot of pain that comes with this placement, but having gone through something difficult doesn't mean that you have to continually go through that. We can have all sorts of unconscious patterns that we're just keeping up, we're just maintaining them without even realizing it, because maybe we think this is just how it is, or maybe you feel like you deserve it, or maybe you were never told otherwise. But safety and feeling comfortable, it's not too good to be true. It's absolutely possible for you. In fact, it's actually what's intended for you. So moving into mastery, what mastery looks like with this placement is, like I said before, emotional comfort always, feeling secure and safe in who you are at any time, feeling like you can express emotions when you have them, you don't have to hold them back, but you can also be a pillar of strength and security for other people too. You can be home for others and have other people who are home for you. And when it comes to your relationship with family, your family unit, you define that. You have absolutely every right to say what every single aspect of what this is to you. You can keep the people in your life that you want and distance yourself from the people that really aren't serving you. And when you're doing the right thing for yourself, it's not that everything feels perfect. There can still be guilt there, and that's something that you want to heal and really get to the truth behind it. But you know what situations are really improving your well-being versus taking from you. And you know what relationships build you up and which ones tear you down or make you feel held back, like you can't be who you want to be, what you're wanting to be, what you want to do. People who feel limiting are people to set boundaries against, whatever that means for you. But mastery with this placement is having incredibly close bonds, very deep, close, loving connections, people who you're able to share with, who you're able to support and just feed each other emotionally. This can be creating a family and really having that family be on your own terms, a healthy parenting style, a healthy relationship with your children, or having friends that feel like family, or a partner that feels like family, feels like home. But this all comes from really creating that home within yourself, because this is how you attract the people who you want to be within this home with you, by being that first. And another thing that comes with this is an incredible sense of emotional awareness. This is being a deeply supportive and understanding person, but in a balanced way, in a way where you are also feeling deeply understood and supported. And this also gives you so much wisdom, just grounding, authority when it comes to emotional matters. People could come to you, and this sort of satisfaction that comes from helping people in this way, coming from your own deep understanding, maybe your own difficult experiences, there is something deeply satisfying about nurturing others with this placement, or helping others really define their own boundaries, define their own idea of what home and family is. And massive thing here, this is a huge sign of breaking generational cycles, generational curses, stopping things with you. So recognizing within your parents, within the early authorities that you had in your life, anything that you might have gotten from them, whether you express it in your own way or you internalize it or you do the exact opposite in a sort of overcompensation way. This is about taking those things that were difficult for other people, for our parents, for those people who passed them on to us, and creating something better from it, creating a healthy relationship with that idea, or finding a way to just end it altogether. It is the emotional awareness that really builds you up to this point. But getting there takes being honest with yourself, being open with yourself, and allowing yourself to go there and really explore these things that you might not want to. They might even feel like something that you don't have authority over. You can't do anything about that. That's just how things are. It's a very restrictive feeling that can sometimes feel hopeless and definitely isolating, misunderstood. But if you feel misunderstood, that is all the more reason to find people who understand you. And as I mentioned before, it kind of takes understanding yourself first, and that's when you draw these people in, or you find these people. Once you kind of energetically and emotionally know where you're at, that aligns you with more things that are going to help you explore on your path and come to understand yourself, what you're looking for, what home and safety are to you. It's just that sometimes this can be so drastically different from what you grew up with or what you were taught. So really being disciplined, standing your ground, being okay with doing things your way. It can be tough, but it's something that, again, you deserve. So that's what I have to say about this placement. If you have Saturn in the 4th, I'm very curious about your experiences, if you resonate with any of this, and whether you're before or after your first Saturn return, or your second Saturn return, or even beyond that. This is one of the most deeply uncomfortable ones, and it can absolutely feel unfair, completely unfair. But from the difficulty that you experienced early on, it lets you know what you don't want, and it lets you know what you really do want, and it gives you the power and the authority to create that and have a much deeper relationship with this home and comfort than the average person will. So thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate you, and I love you. Bye.